topic here, as Phil mentioned, was the Oracle Audit Vault for auditors and IT security professionals. As far as the agenda, what I'd like to do is start off with an overview, position the product, and then go through some of the features and functionality of the Audit Vault from the perspective of an IT security professional or more importantly, an auditor, and then go through the Integrigy Log and Audit framework. And why we put together the agenda in this order is that really security, as we know, is a process. It is a method, and it is far more than just a collection of tools that are used. So really what we want to do with this presentation here is to talk through the capabilities of the Oracle Audit Vault. It is really an exceptional tool for auditors and IT security professionals, as I think you will see here by the end of the presentation if you don't already have some familiarity with it. But really look at the Oracle Audit Vault through the lens of this process and method of security, and really the idea that tools operate on data and generate data, and that it is really the content that is what needs to be framed. So if you look at the process here, the Integrigy Log and Audit framework, specifically for databases, is what we have in mind here as far as the content and how that content could be framed and used within the Oracle Audit Vault. So without further ado here, let's get moving. But the one slide here, as far as Integrigy, for those of you who might not be familiar with who we are and what we do. Integrigy was founded in 2001. We have two lines of services, two lines of business. We have our products, of which you see on the left there, AppCentury and AppDefend. These are purpose-built for database security, and in particular for the AppDefend, purpose-built for the Oracle E-Business Suite. As far as our services, you'll see there on the right that we have a complete set of compliance and design services in and around databases, heavily focused on Oracle. Much of the content in today's conversation or presentation here today is the result of the conversations we've had with a few customers of late who are working through implementing the Oracle Audit Vault and or a similar such tool. So again, this is a webinar. Just wanted to have one slide here, and let's go on. And first on this slide here, I'd like to give thanks to Oracle for borrowing their slide at least here. What I want to do here was position the Oracle Audit Vault, and you can see that the Oracle Audit Vault is front and center in the bottom there, receiving feeds from databases in the upper right there, and you can see that the Oracle Audit Vault can consume log and audit data from Oracle, starting with version 9i all the way up through 12, MySQL, SQL Server, Sybase, and DB2. As well as the Oracle Audit Vault can receive feeds from Solaris, pretty much we'll call it syslog, as well as Windows Event Activities, as well as the Oracle Firewall. And there is a very tight relationship between the Oracle Audit Vault and the Firewall, and I'll mention that on the next slide or two. But if you look in the lower, actually if you look on the left side, especially the lower left corner of this slide here, the idea that this is a purpose-built tool for auditors. And really, and I'll say this a few times, if you are an auditor or a security professional and you are looking for a tool to help manage, if not a primary tool for the security of privileged users, really the Oracle Audit Vault is this purpose-built tool. Strong statement there, and I'd like to develop that throughout the presentation here. So keep that in mind, keep this picture in mind, and certainly if you have any questions, we will be, as Phil was saying, distributing a copy of this presentation on our website along with accompanying white paper. So with regard to the Oracle Audit Vault, think of this first as a single appliance that when you install it, it installs a secured appliance, a stacked application, to use the Oracle vernacular. The stacked application has a database, an application, and a report server all built into it. It is a single image, an ISO image, that once it installs, basically it lays in all of the software. You can install this on a physical machine or a virtual machine. And just a side note, I've worked with Oracle technologies for many, many years, as Phil was laying out, and I have to say that each time that I've sat down to do an install of the Oracle Audit Vault, I've been surprised in how clean it is. Really have not had issues whatsoever in the installation of the core appliance. That said, a couple things to keep in mind, and again, I'm trying to keep this conversation, at least from looking at those of you who are registered, want to keep this at a moderately technical level. Really want to speak to the auditors and IT security professionals. So I'm not going to go into the deep details of the specific mechanics. I want to give you an appreciation for what the product can do. So first, once you finish installing the Oracle Audit Vault on this appliance, you need to register the host and secure targets, i.e. the databases that you want to receive feeds from. If you are also then considering the Oracle Firewall, you need to think about it in this order, in that first you need a repository for the data that the Firewall is going to generate. So you need to think about the Audit Vault first, and then think about, in a next phase, the Firewall. I also added the comment here about the Data Vault. Commonly, if I get in a conversation with people and they're not all that familiar with the Oracle space, the idea that Oracle has two products, both with the Vault in the name, but they do two separate things. The Oracle, what I'll say about the Oracle Database Vault is, think of that as a tool to prevent different groups of users, could be privileged users, could be DBAs, from accessing the database. What the Audit Vault does is log who went where when. So two tools both have Vault in the name, but they do different things. And I would mention that think about the Audit Vault would need to come first before you really think through even a Data Vault implementation, because really you're going to want to log the Data Vault activity, and you're going to want to make sure that those logs have a repository. So that was it as far as a high-level overview. Now I'd like to go through and develop some of the capabilities of the Audit Vault itself. So really, this is a tool built, as I like to say, for and by IT security professionals. If you are looking for a tool to detect and prevent insider threats, this is an exceptional tool. It is a vault. The primary, or if you think of the way it works, the way Oracle works with this, is that it is consuming the logs that are generated at the source. So if I have a source database that is a DB2 database, or it's the Oracle, or I might have an Oracle e-business suite with a test, dev, and production environment, I'm going to want to consume audit logs from all those different disparate locations. I'm going to put them into this data warehouse of audit log activity. So this is a secure at the source. The Audit Vault itself is not generating the logging data. And this is kind of a point that is, if you're looking at other such tools, won't mention them by name, but this is unique to Oracle's approach into this space. I should also say that I think in 2014 that the Oracle Audit Vault was voted by Database Trends as the security product of the year. So it's getting some pretty good traction in the marketplace. So again, with the perspective of an auditor, what can you do with the Oracle Audit Vault? What kind of value, as we were mentioning in the title, can you generate? This is a tool that you can essentially provision, or I should say essentially view what database policies you have set where, right? It's going to give you that data warehouse of what has been configured. Then You can start comparing that against a baseline, and you can start through the standard reports, of which I'll start sharing with you in a few slides deeper, as to if you need attestation for compliance for what auditing you do have in place. This is a single repository for that. You can also make changes and manage this, so essentially provisioning audit settings for consistency, again, a very powerful feature of this tool. And last but not least, the concept of the dashboards and the ability for, because there's this singular repository, this data warehouse of log activity, you can start cutting reports and, more importantly, alerts across all these different sources. Some of the advantages of the Oracle Audit Vault is that it is, think of this as not just consuming the native database auditing underneath not just the Oracle database, but SQL Server, MySQL, DB2, that it's consuming the native database auditing in each one of those platforms. With regard to the Oracle, it will also consume fine-grained auditing, such that you can think of this as transparent to the application, more importantly, a very low performance impact. So as far as the value that could be created here, this is a tool that if you already own it and you're thinking today about what you could do with this, one of the obstacles, if you're sitting down at the table, could be, well, what's the performance hit? And I would say that if you have already turned on auditing, it's almost not worth the conversation, because the only thing you're doing is just consuming that log information that you're already generating in another location. If you have not turned on auditing, then it's just a conversation around enabling auditing in that native application. And the only thing that the Audit Vault then is doing is just consuming that. I have a slide at the end where I'll get back to this, but another, I think, key advantage of the Oracle Audit Vault is its ability to consume and propagate this concept of identity propagation. So I'll mention specifically the client identifier attribute if you're on an Oracle platform, and I'll develop that idea later on. But I think this is a very powerful feature if you think about all the different locations of which your employees, particularly potentially privileged employees or staff members such as DBAs, they could be working with a number of servers and or databases, and this is a centralized repository to look for those patterns that could be indicative of suspicious activity. And the ability to triangulate and be able to look at not just network activity, but also application database activity, and triangulate everything, for example, through a single user ID and Miller is very powerful. How does it work? So again, I want to keep this at a high level, and won't go into too much more detail, but at a high level, we'll use the example here of an Oracle e-business suite logon. So we have not just a database bit here, but think about an application logon, and think about this as an application logon the way the Oracle e-business suite is built as this one large application where all the individual end users log on, but if you actually look at the database, it's one physical account apps. So what happens is, in event number 1 here, we have a logon. A row is written out into the e-business suite log table, FND logins, that would say, hey, Mike Miller logged on the 13th at 1:45 the standard database logging on that is then capturing audit logs, and what the Oracle Audit Vault then does is obtain a copy of those logs and then forwards it to the Audit Vault. So I have the centralized appliance. This appliance is, for all intents and purposes, think of it as a data warehouse of log activity, and what I'm doing is I'm deploying agents onto these servers, and then I'm activating these servers, and these agents are then storing and forwarding the log information to the centralized server. The connections are highly secured, and again, we could go into a lot more detail if you were so interested in the technical setup of these agents. Just going back to my earlier statement, I usually found that the Oracle Audit Vault application itself installs very cleanly, and the only real difficulty I've had is at times with different flavors of Linux and so forth, trying to get the agents to deploy. And that in and itself has been only the stumbling block in that, not all that of a stumbling block. So, value. What value can you generate with the Oracle Audit Vault? I'm going to develop this idea here, and of the information. And again, this is the picture frame that I want to frame out for you, literally, and then we're going to turn the conversation to the second part of the conversation to the framework. So, what you have available out of the box is, I think, impressive, and is certainly, with the amount of time that Integrigy has sat down with customers and designed database security programs. Think of the questions that commonly come up as far as what type of information are you looking for. For example, logons, and you can see here that there are standard reports for pretty much the foundation of activity reports that you would want. So if you can think about this, I have logons. These logons could be for Oracle, they could be for MySQL, they could be for Windows. I'm pulling them in, and I can start taking a look at out of the box. Once those agents start populating, I have this information. Entitlement reports. Another part of any core database security program certainly is who is authorized to do what. Standard reports here out of the box for that. Not that it's going to meet 100% of your needs here, but certainly if you're looking for a set of reports and a single source to start inventorying what roles you have and who has those standard reports for that. Stored procedure auditing. So if you're running an Oracle database, certainly an Oracle database that is making heavy use of business logic encapsulated in PL/SQL objects, be they packages, functions. Many times a database security, a common question that is asked is, well, what's changed? If you're an auditor, here's some standard reports to help you manage that as far as for Oracle PL/SQL objects, what's been created, what's been changed, and what's been deleted. Standard reports for that. Compliance reports. So why, if you have bought or are thinking of buying the Oracle Audit Vault, certainly compliance is commonly a top reason. Maybe not the reason, but a top reason to purchase it if not implement it. Out-of-the-box reports for PCI, Gramm-Leach, HIPAA, SOX, and DPA. And I've screenshotted those compliance reports here, and I just expanded the Sarbanes because looking at the attendees, it looked like most people would be interested in SOX. Though I will say, if you look at and explode each one of these reports, many of the same reports are duplicated, and that's not surprising because pretty much all these standards have a core concept of change control as well as user account provisioning. But the idea is that if you're looking to generate value with these tools, as soon as you have those agents up and harvesting those logs information, Oracle's going to provide these standard reports for the overlays. If you are using F5 Big IP security appliance, there are out-of-the-box reports for F5. You can see down at the bottom there. Up at the top, you can see that if you are then going to deploy the Oracle Firewall, if you think of the Oracle Firewall on that first screen, there are these reports here as far as policy reports that are out of the box for the database firewall. So this screen not really related to our conversation around database auditing, but I did want to share it with you. So reports, any of these reports that I just showed you, including the concept of custom reports that I'll talk about next, you can schedule reports to be run. You can have these reports when they're run to appear in PDF as well as Excel file formats. You can also set up notifications, and then at the bottom there, you could set up the concept of attestation, where after the report is run, that the auditor can attest to it, and you have even that record to help with your compliance. And if you wanted to have a certain compliance report run once a month, once a quarter, and have that sent to a compliance team, you can see here how you could schedule and have that done. Reports are all built with BI Publisher. So going back to, if you're looking to develop value with this product, that gives you a very robust set of standard reports, and also, since it's BI Publisher, makes it very easy, especially if you have in-house BI Publisher skill sets to begin with, to modify and or create new reports. So if you're not familiar, BI Publisher here is, I like to describe it as nothing more than a Microsoft Word mail merge. If you know how to do a mail merge between Excel and Word, you can write a BI Publisher report. You would start that by going into the Oracle Audit Vault application here. You would download the template, and then you could see here, I just screenshotted Microsoft Word here. There's actually an application that helps you, but you don't even need the application if you really just wanted to just tag, drop the fields where you want them, cut, copy, paste any icons or artwork you want, and you then upload the report back up into Audit Vault, and you have a new report. So if you already have BI Publisher skills in-house, yet another easy way to generate value. So you have the Audit Vault, this data warehouse. You have the agents deployed, harvesting, forwarding audit logs into the centralized data warehouse. You have a set of standardized reports. What are you doing with those reports? If you are setting up alerts, you then, especially if you're a larger shop, you're probably going to need to act on those alerts. So Oracle Audit Vault has pre-built, you can see here from the screenshot, pre-built integration set up for HP ArcSight as far as the SIM. Click the box, give the address. There's also the ability to, if you're using another product, to generate syslog events, and also, I couldn't screenshot it because it's more of the configs. If you're using Remedy as your ticketing system, standard functionality, well documented in the user guides, to have any alerts raised by the Oracle Audit Vault create tickets inside of VMC Remedy. So if you're looking, again, from an auditor's perspective, how to generate value, here's some things to keep in mind as to why you would consider the Oracle Audit Vault, and certainly, if you have it, additional things you could do with it. So last but not least, alerts. I've given the two examples here, one on the left, one on the right, and these are examples with regard to not just an Oracle database, but for the Oracle eBusiness Suite. So the way the Oracle eBusiness Suite is written, again, all of the users connect with a single database account. It's a one big account model or type of application. And this is, the schema is the app schema. So any activity, certainly direct database connections by the apps account, need to be well monitored and could be indicative of suspicious activity. So what I have here is an example of a direct database logon with the apps account that's not occurring on the actual server itself. So I don't care if the server, the application is connecting, because users just connecting through the user interface. I don't need to worry about, but what I'm doing with this is I want to trap, let's say, a developer maybe logging on to production with the apps account, right? So the other example here is somebody potentially looking to update or modify or alter, in other words, one of the audit tables that is monitoring eBusiness Suite end user logons. So if somebody is trying to, let's say, erase something that they did that they logged on, I would want to know about that. Those are the examples. What I'd like to draw your attention to here is that it's a very clean user interface. We give a name, type, the severity type, whether or not it's a warning, some thresholds, and this condition logic is very, very straightforward and also well documented. Email notifications as well, very easy, straightforward straightforward. Here's an example of the direct database logon on the prior screen. If I want to generate an email, you can see here I'm dragging and dropping available tags in the upper right down into the body of the email, saying whether or not I want a plain text or HTML, and save the format, and I have that all set ready to go as far as an alert. So definitely this is a tool if you're an auditor, IT security professional with a small amount of training. You're probably well on your way to being able to do a lot of this yourself once you've been shown how to do it once, a few times initially. So we've talked about the Audit Vault as a tool. Think of it as a frame, and really what you need to really generate value with the tool is a framework. You need the content. You need to know what to turn on the auditing in the source systems, what to generate as far as log data in order to really get value out of this tool. Hence the Integrigy Log and Audit framework. And this framework is the product of well over the last 10 years, conversations with customers sitting down and designing what needs to be audited, logged, and what are the events that should be looked at with that data. So why are we talking about the framework? Again, logs are just generated by the source data. The Audit Vault's only data warehouse. Our framework is defining what should be audited and alerted. So this is a starting point. If you're not really doing much with database auditing today, and or if you're using some level of database auditing, this is hopefully give you some ideas for what you can do to expand your database auditing and security program. And we're going to look at this in the context of what you can do with this if you also have the Audit Vault. So many people, if we start the why are you auditing conversation, it is because of a singular compliance need, either, let's say, HIPAA or SOX. If you're publicly traded and sufficiently large, many times you are subject to not only 1, 2, 3, or many, 4 or 5 different compliance standards. What Integrigy has done here is harmonize those into a single set of foundation events. And then we're going to look at those harmonized events as to what levers you need to pull inside the database, or let's say inside the Oracle e-business suite, in order to generate that log activity such that you can consolidate it in and start monitoring. So by that, we have our harmonized events here, and if you can think about this 14 set of core events is pretty much universal. A logon is a logon regardless of whether or not I'm logging into a database, an application, a network, or even potentially swiping my card at the front door. If I'm modifying a role, either I'm modifying a responsibility inside the e-business suite, or I'm modifying a database role. So we're going to harmonize all this, and we're going to think about what events and how we're logging is mapped back to these harmonized events. We've done that pretty much by sitting down. We've actually mapped this out to quite a few more standards, but they don't all fit onto one PowerPoint slide here. But I will note, if you can draw attention to the first column there, PCI. PCI is the most specific in regard to logging and auditing, so we really use that as the bedrock here as far as Section 10, specifically 10.2, and then you can see here how we've mapped that out to the other standards. So we have this common harmonized event framework, and now we're thinking about, well, how do you get going? So we're thinking about 3 levels of maturity. So if you already have auditing set up, and maybe you're thinking about the Oracle Audit Vault, you're probably thinking about, you're probably qualifying for somewhere in and around a level 2, because what we're thinking about here is level 1 is just enabling the baseline auditing. So if you don't have auditing turned on today, you would start with level 1. Level 2 would be consolidating that log and audit data into a centralized log and audit solution, such as the Oracle Audit Vault. And the level 3 is this continuous improvement, starting with the ability to overlay functional logging and really more and more complex auditing and monitoring over time. So this, another way to look at this is the common maturity model, CMM, not doing something, maybe just running with the Oracle database, defaults, but then the idea that you could start consolidating with a centralized logging, for example, implementing the Oracle Audit Vault there, and then improving on into level 3. So level 1, the objectives here would be just enable the baseline auditing. And again, if you think about what is the Oracle Audit Vault, the Oracle Audit Vault is just a warehouse. It by itself is not going to generate log data in this target system. So it can help you baseline it and manage it, but the actual logging is done, the logs are generated on each one of the secured targets. So you have to think about, you need to start here and going into each of the target systems, and at least in the example here for the Oracle e-Business Suite, we're asking that you turn on sys operations to track core privileged users, DBA activities, some standard database auditing, as well as within the application, turning on the core navigation login auditing as far as for the self-service and professional forums, what users logged on, and once they logged on, where'd they go, and then some simple alerts. So as far as database logging, in our white paper that accompanies this webinar, we actually detail this out in much detail and actually give a script that if you're not doing anything with other than the default Oracle logging, you could actually increase that. But the idea, again, inside the Oracle Audit Vault, if that's just a picture frame, you need a picture to frame, right? And that is this type of this type of content. You need to think about what database events you're specifically looking at, and whatever, again, you're defining, you need to think about purging, and what I'm talking about here is purging on the source systems. What is generated, collected by the agents, and pulled into the Oracle Audit Vault, that is a different conversation as far as how long you need to retain that for compliance reasons. So what can you do with the Oracle Audit Vault? What sort of value can you generate? So we're giving you some ideas here. Again, these ideas are really within the context of the Oracle e-Business Suite. But things such as somebody turning off auditing, somebody changing the audit parameters, not just somebody potentially logging on directly. So in our methodology here, and again, if you go up to our website, we have more than one white paper that lays this out. These are the events that we're suggesting, and certainly with the Oracle Audit Vault, very easy to implement as far as configuring the Audit Vault for these events. Level 1, these are, again, the elementary or first alerts that we would suggest that you look at. Level 2, if you already have the Oracle Audit Vault, you can think about starting here, but I would encourage you to go back and look at the alerts that that we're recommending, and to think about implementing this. If you haven't, if you don't have the Oracle Audit Vault, or if you have it and haven't implemented, here's where you would start. And we're going to take a further step on here, step forward here as far as with level 2 here. Think about auditing, and what I've done with this slide here is think about building alerts and reports for these specific Oracle e-Business Suite navigation logs. So for example, you're going to want to make sure that if you've pulled a lever and you're harvesting log information, making sure that nobody's tampering with or altering these log tables for the Oracle e-Business Suite. This is, for example, if somebody has gone in and is trying to erase FND logons, you would want to build an alert. So the recommendation here is just, for example, for the purpose of today's conversation here, this would qualify in for our framework as far as some of the E3s. Level 2, so a little bit more sophisticated type alerting that you would want to think about with the Oracle Audit Vault are addition and removals of potentially, the Oracle e-Business Suite sysadmin user, or on the left there, the concept of horizontal and vertical unsuccessful logon attempts. So if you have one account and somebody's trying to guess the password for that, or can you detect the pattern of somebody trying to break into like 4 or 5 different accounts, all in the same, let's say tight time frame of just a few minutes or an hour. Level 3, what we're encouraging you, once you have the Oracle Audit Vault in place, you're going to want to extend this, and you're going to want to think about this within the context of the functional logging, the application that is really supporting the database is supporting, and ever more, we'll say, sophisticated types of alerts, and that you're starting to want to look for anomalies, and think about what you can do for as far as automating your compliance. So, I mentioned this at one of the earlier slides. This idea of one of the ways that I really see the Oracle Audit Vault generating value is through this concept of identity propagation. So, if you are using the Oracle eBusiness Suite, if you're using PeopleSoft, SAP, or even OBIEE here, couldn't fit more than that onto the slide here, but the client identifier is a standard functionality of the Oracle database, to put it very simply, and it is a shelf. Think of this as very simplistically, it's a shelf on the bookshelf where you can put information. Specifically, you can put information such as the username. So in the context of the Oracle eBusiness Suite, as of release 12, Oracle is automatically dropping the FND username into that attribute. That attribute is then passed in syslog through standard events, and will appear in the Oracle Audit Vault. So if Mike Miller, M. Miller, logs on to the Oracle eBusiness Suite with version 12 or above, and I'm also running the Oracle Audit Vault, I'm going to have that fact to work with in that data warehouse inside the Oracle Audit Vault. And if you think, if I have that information, that M. Miller, I can do a lot as far as thinking about ever more sophisticated alerting, correlation, and anomaly detection. So in summary here, developing value from the Oracle Audit Vault, if I have that in the center and I'm populating this with ever more sophisticated feeds, starting with the foundation events there, the level 1, if not the level 2, but I can start thinking about what is M. Miller doing, and start thinking about, okay, I have some correlations or anomalies that Mike Miller, if I haven't logged on to the network, maybe I shouldn't be showing an Oracle database log on. Or, Mike Miller is part of a group of users that that I'm first shift Eastern, and that if I start seeing M. Miller logons in the middle of Sunday night, maybe that's a warning. I'm not going to, unless I'm consolidating this into a centralized repository, I'm not going to have visibility there. So this is a real case for consolidating that. Again, if you are looking for a tool for privileged user and managing the risk in and around privileged users, the Oracle Audit Vault is really the purpose-built tool for that. And once you have that information, we talked about this pre-built integration into ArcSight, into Remedy, and options for other tools as well. So I wanted to give a quick, though it seems quick as far as the agenda here, I wanted to position the Oracle Audit Vault. I wanted to, from an auditor and IT security professional perspective, I wanted to give you some ideas as to what you could do with it, really specifically these reports, and the ability that these reports are built in BI Publisher, and then the idea that if Audit Vault is just a picture frame, the content that needs to be framed could be easily implemented using the Integrigy log and audit framework. So I'll stop here. I think there's a few questions I've seen come in, and I know, Phil, you had a few questions that came in prior, so I'll pause and see what questions there are.
Thank you, Mike. We have a couple of questions here. I think the first one is, does the Audit Vault work with Oracle eBusiness Suite?
So the answer is yes. on that, and certainly what you could start doing with the Oracle Business Suite, the answer I just gave there, with the client identifier, certainly with release 12 there, I think that if that is not a case demonstrative of, how do you mitigate the risks of in and around privileged users, those people with the apps account, what they're doing with it, and certainly DBAs. I think our framework as far as what events to look for in using the Audit Vault, it really makes a strong case, especially because the way the Audit Vault agents are going to consume the log and audit information that is already being generated. So very low performance, if not negligible performance impact of the existence of that agent.
All right, another question. Does the Audit Vault running and collecting logs on a central server, or does it require multiple servers?
Well, hopefully I developed that answer throughout the slides here, in that the Audit Vault is a centralized data warehouse. There is a high availability option for that, but I think the answer here is really more in and around, think of this as a traditional client server, in that I have my data warehouse, and it is these agents that are deployed. There are some options, not to get too technical, as far as where these agents are deployed on the same server as the target database or not. If that is the question, please get back to me and we can talk in more detail about that. But I think the simplistic answer is no. This is a single data warehouse, and think of it as these agents as populating it.
Another question, how often do clients also implement Database Vault after implementing Audit Vault, sorry.
I think certainly if you are interested in database, Oracle database security, and thinking through what can be done as far as the Oracle engineered solutions, the purpose-built tools for these risks, certainly the Oracle Audit Vault and Data Vault work tightly together. They are both additional license spend, so there is that to contend with. But that said, think of it this way, in that if I'm setting up realms inside the Oracle Data Vault, and these realms are, thinking of those as rule sets, that Mike Miller can't log on to the database, other than first shift Eastern, right? A very simple rule like that. If Mike Miller tries to log on during the second or third shift, you probably want to know about that, right? So that's, again, the relationship between the two. You have set up the rule, you go on a log in the Audit Vault, the existence of that rule being defined, and then any violations to that rule, then you're going to want to log those as well. Those very well might be suspicious events.
Okay. Another question. Can the Audit Vault log activities in SQL DB equally well?
SQL DB. I'll answer that within the context of, I think the answer is MySQL, and the answer is yes. And I'll caveat that answer with, again, we're talking about the Audit Vault itself is not generating the logs. It's secure at the source. So it is dependent upon the capabilities of the native auditing in each one of the source databases. So to the extent that you can configure, or you know how to configure MySQL auditing, the Audit Vault will be able to consume those logs.
Another question. We use a major log monitoring program across the enterprise. Can Audit Vault feed alerts to the other log program, i.e. Logarithm?
If it can consume syslog, then the answer is yes. If you think about the screenshot I gave, and you can take a look at that when you get a copy of the deck here, it's the screenshot that shows the configurations to generate either events to ArcSight and or syslog, or the note there about the BMC remedy. So Through syslog, yes.
Next question. What are the limitations placed on DBAs when using the Oracle Audit Vault?
Limitations on DBAs. I'll answer the question this way. I think that might be, again, two products, both with a somewhat similar name in that they both have Vault in the name, but they do two different things. So there's probably some confusion there between the Data Vault and the Audit Vault. The Data Vault would be potentially enforcing rules that certain DBAs wouldn't be able to do certain things at different times of the day or year. The Audit Vault is not designed to stop anything. I think of the Oracle Audit Vault as collecting historical information for the purposes of alerting. So if a DBA is doing something malicious or they shouldn't be, think of the Oracle Audit Vault as potentially letting that occur, but generating the email or the report that would have an HR action, slap on the wrist, or conversation.
All right, and it looks like the last question here. Let me check one more time. Last question here is, how easy is it to install the Audit Vault?
Oh, well, hopefully it was one of the earlier questions there that were asked as people who were registering, but the only, as I said, every time I've sat down either at a client site and participated there or in the lab, the actual appliance, because it's an ISO image, it installs very cleanly. The only real difficulties I've seen, and again, not all that much, is getting the agents activated, and some of that at times has to do with having the correct Linux RPMs or packages present. For example, there are some additional patches if you're deploying the Audit Vault agents on Exadata. Exadata being a engineered system by Oracle from a security perspective, a lot of good a lot of good security, excellent security baked into that. And one of the principles there is less is more. So some of the to get the agents deployed on Exadata, you actually have to deploy a few more RPMs because those RPMs weren't deemed as initially required. So maybe too long of an answer there, but it should install pretty cleanly.
Well, thank you, Michael. I think that wraps up our presentation for the day. I want to thank everybody for taking the time out to visit with us today. And be sure to stay with us this next month on December the 18th. Our e-learning session will be EBS and the 12C security. So again, thank you everybody and have a great rest of the day.